Episode 56 CX. Australia, Victoria. Rozep view, like farmers burning stubble in India, in Australia, the same tradition of farmers stubble burning is allowed. There are cleaner alternatives to farmers burning stubble, as there are alternatives to residential wood burning. In Victoria, Australia, those clean alternatives, in order to avoid air pollution, are not employed. Private and planned burns to rise as weather cools. Mirage News. Mirage News. Smoke from wood heaters will often settle in the local area from where they are burning. This localized smoke or smoke haze can often be. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity regarding farmers' stubble burns and residential wood burning. Private burns to rise as weather cools. Hundreds of Victorians in Australia are undertaking private burn-offs as fire restrictions are easing across the state. Farmers and private landholders will ignite stubble burns on their properties. Combined with weather conditions that will prevent smoke from dispersing into the upper atmosphere, it's predicted that smoke may hang over the city and parts of Victoria throughout these periods. This time of year sees a large amount of smoke coming from the necessary burn-offs that our farmers and rural property holders complete. These are part of traditional farming practices where burning off of crop stubble is often needed to kill off weeds and return nutrients and carbon back into the soil. As the weather cools, smoke will also come from the many thousands of wood heaters households rely on for their autumn and winter heat source. Smoke from wood heaters will often settle in the local area from where they are burning. This localized smoke or smoke haze can often be misinterpreted as coming from planned burns from a long way away, but this is not always the case. Although fire restrictions are coming to an end, Victorians are urged to continue registering their burn-offs so that if someone reports smoke to 000, the incident will be cross-checked with the burn-off register. For a list of government planned burns which will occur in this season, in addition to farmers' burn-offs and residential wood burning, residents can consult Planned Burns Victoria. If you see smoke and want to know if it is a planned burn or a fire, visit emergency.vic.gov.au, check the Vic Emergency app or call the Vic Emergency hotline on 1-800-226-226. Visit EPA AirWatch for information about current air quality throughout Victoria. Tips for looking after your health when there is smoke can also be found on EPA's website. To farmers doing stubble burn-offs and residential wood burners. Keep your burn-off safe and legal. Check fire restrictions in your area and always register your burn or call 1-800-668-511. Check and monitor weather conditions, particularly wind. To avoid unnecessary calls to emergency services, notify your neighbors beforehand. Leave a 3-meter fire break, free from flammable materials around the burn. Have sufficient equipment and water to stop the fire spreading. Never leave a burn-off unattended, stay for its entire duration. If your burn-off gets out of control, call 000 immediately. South America, Brazil. Economic and racial disparities of the weather impact on air quality in Brazil. Nature. Fine particulate matter of diameters smaller than 2.5 micrometers, PM2.5, itself contributes to approximately 2 million premature deaths per year, ranking it. April 19, 2023. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity on the subject of PM2.5 exposure only, leaving out the subject of weather. Economic and racial disparities of the weather impact on air quality in Brazil. Introduction. Air pollution is a major environmental risk to health. The World Health Organization, WHO, estimates that every year approximately 4.2 million people die prematurely due to exposure to ambient air pollution. Fine particulate matter of diameters smaller than 2.5 micrometers, PM2.5, itself contributes to approximately 2 million premature deaths per year, ranking it as the 5th leading cause of worldwide mortality. Even low levels of air pollutants have been associated with substantial health effects. In the U.S., the average PM2.5 concentration for the black population was 13.7% higher than that of the white population and 36.3% higher than that of the Native American population. In another study, it is shown that the disparities in exposure to PM2.5 vary across the U.S. states, in which non-Hispanic black populations have at least 5% higher exposures than average in 63% of states, while Hispanic and non-Hispanic Asian populations have higher exposures in 33% and 26% of states, respectively. In contrast, non-Hispanic white populations did not experience higher exposures in any states. Additionally, 10% increase in the proportion of people with lower socioeconomic status was associated with increases in particulate matter components in the U.S., including a 20% increase in vanadium and an 18.3% increase in elemental carbon. The economically disadvantaged population in England had PM10 levels that were 2.6 micrograms per cubic meter higher compared to the least deprived population. In the Netherlands, the difference in PM10 levels was 0.3 micrograms per cubic meter. In Britain, there was a change in the difference between the mean concentrations for PM10 in the most deprived areas and the least deprived areas over time. Specifically, in 2001, the concentration in the most deprived areas was 10.5% higher than in the least deprived areas, but by 2011, this difference had increased to 14.2%. These exposure disparity studies have contributed to pollution-related regulations, especially in the U.S. The main novelty of our work is related to the study area, Brazil. The lack of environmental studies in low and middle-income countries is a critical limitation for the complete understanding of the environmental equity as a social movement to address the unfair exposure of poor marginalized communities worldwide. Brazil has a critical challenge related to land use, example, agriculture, deforestation, etc., which is also linked to air pollution, weather change, and socioeconomic factors. Brazil has a considerable difference in the quality of health/environment and healthcare across different populations, influencing health/environment equity in negative ways, which is an important determinant of environmental justice. Results. We found that the Asian group was the most exposed group to PM2.5 with 15% more exposure compared to the Pardo population, the least exposed group. Disparities in PM2.5 exposure varied across different regions and ethnic groups in Brazil. In the North region, Pardo were the most exposed group to PM2.5, while in the South region, blacks were the most exposed. In the Northeast, Midwest, and Southeast regions, Asians were the most exposed group to PM2.5. In the USA, although low-income group and black communities have been identified as the group most exposed to PM2.5 in several studies, these results may not be homogeneous over space and time. In the U.S., in some regions and periods, white communities and high-income group are the most exposed to PM2.5. For example, while in the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic regions in the USA the white and Asian populations are exposed to higher levels of PM2.5 than the black population, in the Southeast region, the black populations are exposed to the highest level of PM2.5. Among the American states, it is shown that the disparities in exposure to PM2.5 vary substantially, with non-Hispanic black populations experiencing at least 5% higher exposures than the national average in 63% of states, while Hispanic and non-Hispanic Asian populations have higher exposures in 33% and 26% of states, respectively. Non-Hispanic white populations, on the other hand, did not experience higher exposures in any state. In China, characteristics of the exposure and inequality of PM2.5 was different from the USA and similar to our study, which higher income subgroup and majority ethnic group have the most significant exposure to PM2.5. A review study in the World Health Organization European region found mixed results on the social inequalities in exposure to ambient air pollution. In Australia, overall, it is estimated that socioeconomic disadvantaged populations may be inequitably exposed